Joining us now, KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst, and she's, of course, the host of FoxNews.com's DEFCON 3 show, 2 p.m. Wednesdays, live.foxnews.com. Hey, KT, so we're going to talk about drones in a big way coming up in the next hour, but let's get it launched with you right now. What do you think of this leaked memo that sort of redefines the role of drones and how the commander-in-chief can utilize them in the field of war?
Well, first of all, if it had been Bush, we'd be talking impeachment at this point.
Right.
I mean, you know, they wanted to impeach him over torturing non-American known terrorists. And you've now got a president who's killing American citizens, among others, at will, and nobody's uttering a peep.
Yeah, I mean, they were actually talking about seriously trying people from the Department of Justice or from the CIA via war crimes because of the enhanced interrogation techniques, and those were people that we actually caught,
and we knew.
And we knew, yeah.
We knew were terrorists. We knew it killed our own, and that was frowned upon. But this is like, you know, snuffing them out without any judicial process. Anyway, look, I think it's great to kill bad guys. And I'm a hawk, and I have no hesitation. But the drone thing makes me nervous. I think initially, when we were using drones to kill the high-value targets in Pakistan on the Afghan-Pakistan border, we knew who they were. We knew they were high-value targets. We tried to limit collateral damage. All that was great. The problem is, you know, too much of a good thing. Now, my concern is what are we reaping for ourselves? What are we sowing that we will eventually have to reap? Think about the drones versus the Peace Corps. You know, the Peace Corps is the image of America going around helping the world, sending young American kids to help others. Drones, we may not think of them as war. We think it's, you know, gee, nobody American gets hurt. It's easy. If you're on the receiving end of it, or you know the next village is on the receiving end of a drone, you think of it as pretty scary war. And so to me, it's a version of American arrogance that the whole world, it just sort of reinforces that whole notion of American arrogance. You know, Americans can go anywhere they want to go, do anything they want to do. It's the ugly American versus the Peace Corps American. And my worry is by expanding this program so greatly, you know, you're not getting the number one and the number two guys now. You're getting a lot of, who knows, the next level and next level after that, and there's an enormous amount of collateral damage. That what you're doing is creating more enemies than you're taking out. And so the problem will be with us much longer, with much wider recruitment potential than if we had stopped the drone program when we did. Secondly, my concern is, what happens when everybody gets drones? You know, now one argument is, oh, well, only the United States with this big infrastructure and worldwide intelligence network can operate drones effectively. But, you know, what happens when somebody gets little drones? Are we going to have American citizens shot out, an American ambassador taken out when he's driving in, you know, and going to visit the pyramids? It's just, the whole thing makes me very nervous as to what we're sowing that we will eventually reap.
Well, it's this NBC document. Well, it's a Justice Department document obtained by NBC News.
Yes.
And they lay out three things that have to happen before you can launch a drone, even against an American citizen overseas. And it starts by saying an informed high-level official of the U.S. government can make this decision. Well, that's awful gray language, isn't it?
Yeah, well, then they say the president personally is picking out the targets for drone, you know, the individuals to be targeted by drones. But it's all very squishy language, which if you interpret it one way, in a very strict way, it's only at the highest levels that they decide. It's only someone who presents an immediate threat to the United States. But it's all very vague. You can see it becoming something where you know, I don't think it would ever happen in the United States, but what if you got an enemies list? The whole thing just, I think, really makes me very nervous. The third reason it makes me nervous is, you know, when we got rid of the draft and we had a professional military, it made the bar much lower for when we would use force because it didn't affect everybody. The political acceptability of going to war was easier because it wasn't your kid. Now, when you have drones, the political acceptability of having drone strikes, of going to war, again, sets that bar very low because there's no American in the loop. You don't endanger any American lives. And I think sometimes the bar for when you go to war ought to be a lot higher, not lower.
All right. I have just a phrase I want to throw at you, and I want your immediate gut reaction. Secretary of State John Kerry.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean,
You don't have concerns?
No, I have more concerns with Hagel.
Yeah.
But,
well, how about
this is an administration that runs its national security, foreign policy out of the departments. You know, there's sort of two models. One was the Nixon model, and when I worked for Kissinger at the White House, where foreign policy was run by a small group of people and administered by the departments. In the Reagan administration, where I also worked, it was really not run by the National Security Advisor. It was run by the Secretaries of State and Defense. Both were the most successful foreign policy presidencies we've had in the post-war period. So this White House, though, runs it all out of the White House. So I think that the Secretaries of State and Defense are looked upon by the President as the guys who administer the policies that he decides.
Well, and Chuck Hagel, you mentioned as potentially the administrator, I should say, of the president's policies there at the Pentagon. Lindsey Graham has now asked for Obama to withdraw his nomination. John McCain has said that he has ruled out a filibuster. Where do you stand on this? What should the Senate do?
Well, without a filibuster, they're not going to stop the nominating. I mean, he'll get by. He'll get the votes he needs. But what he's going to have is it's a poison chalice. He's going to have a really hard couple of years. He's going to have a job nobody wants, right, cutting budgets. He's going to have to cut particularly from the contractors and the civilian employees at the Defense Department. That means a lot of unemployed people in Washington. That means a lot of unemployed people going around to dinner parties complaining to the media. So he's going to have it'll be an amplified negative effect.
Right.
He's got to deal with the rising threats. And it's a whole new world out there. It's no longer country A goes to war with country B. It's subnational, transnational groups who can get their hands on powerful weapons. I think that Secretary Clinton and Panetta, they're leaving town just before the wheels are good.
They're getting out while the getting is good. All right, KT McFarland, thanks for joining us. And all those out-of-work defense workers, they can just get a job in Obamacare. It's 7:40.